here. I am going to be making this bird, cockatoo, sulfur-crested cockatoo. But I am going to be making it in multiple colors. So, yeah. And this is a Kathy Wise pattern. So let's see what I can do with that. Yay! Okay, so I went and got a bunch of copies of the pattern. This side of the pattern. Yeah. Now I'll just start cutting out pieces and kind of figure out how I want it to look. I should actually look at a colored parrot to compare some stuff, I think. Figure out what should go where. So I have this picture of a parrot. It has the reds and the blues and the yellows and stuff. And I noticed that a lot of their beaks, both of them, top and bottom, are black. So I'm gonna go with a black beak. But I found some really great colors in my pile. So this is pine in case I have to stain something. But then check out this piece of aromatic cedar. Woo! Pretty! And this awesome piece of purple heart. Aspen for the white. Some ebony for the beak. This is for the branch. This is a monkey pod. Then I found this awesome orange wood I have, and I'm not sure what it's called. It might be Osage orange or however you say it, but I'm not sure. But it's so pretty orange. I thought that would work somewhere. And then I have some yellow heart. So I have some great natural wood colors. Yeah. If I want to put blue in, I think I'm going to have to do some staining. But we'll see. We'll see. I cut out the pieces of the pattern and laid them on their wood, looking at grain direction that looked good to me. Then laid them out and sprayed them with 3M77 adhesive, using a long stick to keep them from flying away. And then put them back on their wood after a few seconds. Then went to the scroll saw and started cutting out the pieces. I am using a number 5 Pegas modified geometry blade. The wing was all one piece at this point, so then I segmented it into all of its individual little pieces. Then I used mineral spirits and a paintbrush and put it on all of the papers to loosen them so they would come off easily. Wally helped himself to the table, sniffed around a little bit, and then left while I was taking all the papers off.
How's the parrot coming?
Good.
Good.
I have this new little tool that Jerry sent me. Thanks, Jerry. And I'm going to try it on the eye. Oh, look at that. Ooh, neato. Wow. I love it. Works great for the eye thingy-majiggers. For the catch light. The ebony is a dense and very hard wood, so I had to press on it pretty hard to drill that little hole, but it worked. I had cut a small rectangular shaped piece of holly and then sharpened it in the pencil sharpener to use as the catch light. It was a tad too long, so I snipped it with the scissors and then it fit just right. Yeah, look at that. All right. I glued it in with some Tight Bond Quick and Thick and wiped off the squeeze out. Then let that sit to set up. Great. Yay! It's awesome. Thank you. And when it was dry, I cut off the excess holly with the scroll saw, and I accidentally didn't hit record on the camera. So sorry. And I finally got my respirator helmet. It's called a PowerCap Active, and it isn't for COVID, but for keeping sawdust out of my nose. I actually wanted this because it would also be great to use while working on a wood lathe, which I haven't done very much of. But it's lightweight and it seems to work great so far. And it was awesome to have this while I was shaping on the pneumatic drum sander. I have the dust collection, but still little pieces of fine sawdust fly all over the place. I used a few different sanding shims, including this one for the wing, putting double stick tape on the shim and then putting the wing pieces together onto the shim. I have 100 grit sandpaper on this drum and it shapes very quickly. Sanding all of those pieces together at the same time, it gives them a nice, consistent overall shape. Then I can define each individual piece after this. But you have to be aware that some of those tiny pieces may fly off. If this happens, you can stick the pieces together side to side to help hold them in place, if they don't stay in place with the one piece on the back. I used another shim to slightly shape the orange mohawk type feathers. Then for the body section, I flipped everything over to put the tape on the actual pieces instead of on the shim. That always takes a while to figure out where the pieces go if you can't flip them all over at once. But when I got it, I put double stick tape over all of them. And then I put the shim board directly on top of the pieces with the tape and pressed it to stick. Then I used a sanding stick cleaner to clean my sanding drum real quick. Love this thing. And started sanding that body section. And when I had that where I wanted it, then I started to shape some other single pieces. And then I did use another sanding shim for the tail feathers, shaping those all together, giving them a nice continuous contour. And hanging on to any small pieces that could catch and fly off. Okay, wow, this thing is great. I love it. Little button here. And off like that. Whew. Yeah. Whew. I'm gonna pull everything off of their sanding shims and just take a look and see how things look. These come off pretty easily. My power cap again. Once I had everything off of the shims, then I started going over everything with 220 on the Flex drum sander. I was checking to see if I could feel the suction from another great garage sale find, this sanding table. I could feel it a little bit, but not real strong. But a little is better than none, I guess. Then I smoothed over the edges with some hand sanding. My power cap battery needed a recharge, so I was back to my Protect Life dust mask, which I like these too. Well, I want to make these pieces blue, just like this parrot here. And so I have some blue stain, and I'm going to stain these ones that are the pine. Hopefully it looks okay. I don't want to have to cut new pieces, but I will. I will if it doesn't look right. Yep. It's a stain, not a paint, so we can still see the wood grain and stuff. That was the goal. That were the goal. Wally was outside barking and howling at something. This is a water-based stain and it will raise the grain some. Wally's just howling away. What do you see out there, Wally? What are you seeing? What do you see? Something out there, buddy? Let's see if it looks okay. I think it might. There. Yeah, I think that will work. I think. Once they were dry, I lightly sanded them with 400 grit to remove the raised grain. Next was to cut out the backer. So I took a piece of newsprint paper and I sprayed it lightly with Craft Light adhesive spray. And transferred the project onto the sticky surface. Then I traced the project with a pencil, and you have to make sure that you're going through any glue that's stuck on the paper to get the pencil to actually make marks on the paper. Sometimes I traced it and then there's no marks because there was too much glue. Then I moved the project back off of the paper. And sprayed some adhesive onto the actual board I'm going to use for my backer, and I put the tracing onto that board. Then I used a red marker, and going about 1/16 of an inch inside of the trace line, I made a cut line. Then I cut along the red line with the scroll saw, and then I had my backer board for my project. I put some blue tape along one side to act as a border, then sprayed the gluing surface and the sides with a primer. The only reason I do this is so that if the backer shows through any gaps, it looks black. I know I try not to have gaps, but I just gotta face it, gaps happen. And I think it just looks better when it's black back there. I haven't had any problems gluing the project to the primed backer. A lot of people have asked me about that. All I know is it's primer and not paint, and maybe that's why it works, but I don't really know for sure. Now is the time for putting on the finish. I used Old Master's Pickling White on the aspen. This will brighten up the natural white of the wood. And I used Old Master's Polygel on the rest of the pieces. I wiped it on a few pieces at a time and then wiped it off. And I put it on all of the sides except for the bottom. It's amazing to me how all of those pieces look like a disorganized pile of a bunch of wood, but when situated just right, they make a pretty design. I love it. Anyway, I let them set up for about 4 to 6 hours. The next day, I removed the blue tape from the backer and put all the pieces together. I had actually sanded away the catchlight in the eye, so I had to drill another hole and glue in another piece of holly for a new catchlight. You can see it sitting there by the pencil. And since it was almost time to start gluing things together, I thought I should put some stuff on the back. I put the verse Psalm 91:4 from the New Century Version. It says, "He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you can hide. His truth will be your shield and protection." I thought that was a pretty cool verse to put on the back of a bird. I know the verse is talking about God, so I imagine being a little chick hiding under the protection of his wings. Guess the psalmist was imagining that too. Anyway, feathers always remind me of God's protection. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have feathers since we're told that God is spirit, but it's fun to think about that maybe he does. I also added my logo and the date. I also started adding the sawtooth hanger. The screws were sticking out the other side of the backer, but once I have the project glued on, then the screws will extend into the wood of the project. For now, it is just to get the placement and initial holes started. And then I sanded up the new catch light on the eye and tried it in. Then I took it out and I put on a coat of Krylon Triple Thick. This stuff is really shiny and I like it for the eyes. Then I transferred the whole deal over to the backer. This can be tricky because the pieces need to line up just right on the backer so no backer shows around the edges. Once I had it where I thought it was lined up, I started gluing pieces. I start by gluing only one piece. Then after about 10 minutes, I glue some more pieces. This keeps the pieces from shifting while they dry. It does take a while to glue everything, but it is so worth it. I have a little bit of backer showing here, which is always a bummer, but that happens. And I'm just going to use this sander, which is a recent garage sale find, and see if I can fix it. My first time using the sander. This little sander, wow, is it perfect for this. You could try pretty hard not to have the backer showing and still end up having it show around the outside edge. But this sander does a trick. So then I used a Sharpie to blacken the spots that I had sanded and screwed the sawtooth hanger in place. I did drill a bit through the holes I had already made and into the wood of the bird a tiny bit so there was a pilot hole for the screws, just so I wouldn't crack any pieces of the bird. Then I had almost forgotten to add the black to the claws of the feet. I should have done this before adding the finish, but it still worked. So I used my wood burner and added darkness to the claws. 1 claw here and 3 claws here. The colorful bird is all finished. Yay! So this is a Kathy Wise pattern, and it was a lot of fun doing this. And I really like these natural colors. And this blue, couldn't get a blue natural color, so this is from some stain, and I wasn't so sure about it at first, but now I really like it. I think it blends well with these other colors. So thanks for joining me, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye!